Smash the like button and subscribe right now. Serious, students of Reddit who had a sexual relationship with a teacher. How did it start and how did it turn out? I guess I technically had a sexual relationship with a teacher. She was the lab TAFE for my invertebrate zoology lab and refused to do anything with me until after the class. After classes, we partied and hooked up quite a lot. After a year of us still being together, other TAs started dating undergrads. 6-7 years later, we're married and have a kid together. Obviously it worked out for you, but looking back, would you recommend it? I'm a TM and matched with one of my old students, F, on a dating app a few months after I taught her. I told her I couldn't because she had been my student, but I looked at the school policies and couldn't find anything. I've been thinking of reaching out to her again, but I'm not sure. I would highly recommend you start to wait until you're no longer in control of their grades. There's a significant chance of being accused of favoritism otherwise. If you're not an actual teacher, there's nothing stopping you. When we matched, I wasn't in control of any grades. It was a few months after the course was over. It has now been another 2 months or so. I fell in love with the workshop supervisor at my university that guides the workshop that I need for my education. She is about a year older than I am. I am doing some small arts and crafts and leatherworking. She was interested in getting something and she bought something custom. I can't remember how it started out, but for some reason or another, we had some drinks which ended in a night spent together and a sexual relationship. We discovered an attraction to each other. She went to the faculty director with the situation and explained it. Since she cannot give marks on my work and is only a guide in the eyes of the university, they approved of the relationship. That was about 3 years ago. We are still together as I am finishing my education. The relationship moved on from the sexual flirt which it all started with to something deep. We live together for 2 years now and she helps me something with running the 2 companies that I set up aside my study. When I finish my education next year, I will even propose to her. Small edit. I just want to clarify that at the start of this relation we well pasted the 18 years old mark. I like the part where she went clean to the faculty director even though she knew she could have gotten into some SRS trouble. Glad it worked out, man. All the best. It is, because she went straight to the director without going secret, she got in no trouble. It is not that uncommon for relations to happen at uni level. There is a new influx of young master employees that age at 26-30 and some students study after doing a college-ish level. Our school system doesn't translate to English, who then are often between 23-26, so the age differences are a whole lot less. The university just needs to know if it causes conflict and if any of the two in a relationship are manipulatable. Congratulations, it's nice to see some positive stories on this thread. It started innocently enough. She was my chorus teacher, fresh out of college and only 6 years older than me. My brother WAA actually dating her friend from high school. I used to cut class and say I had a music lesson and we just hang in the music room, talk about books, music, movies. Then she started complaining about her relationship a lot, needing hugs, which I was more than happy to help with. It eventually turned to making out, and we finally started hooking up when she gave me rides home after school. I honestly felt like Elle found $1 million, but couldn't tell anybody about it. It was weird. Then she got weird, asking for her hugs in front of the entire class. I knew everyone knew. I started riding home with my friends again, then she started just showing up at my house. Had a very awkward convo with my dad, who knew exactly what was going on, but was so impressed he just kept saying, "Damn, she's pretty." Ghosting hadn't been invented back then, but Elle did the best Elle could. Eventually she chilled out. A few months later Elle stopped by her room during our normal hang ses time, and she apologized. Told me she was just going through a lot with her shitty boyfriend and needed some attention from someone that actually liked her. We didn't talk much after that. Elle graduated soon after, but we're friends on Facebook and she actually married a decent guy and has a nice family. I'm very relieved we were never found out. It would have been devastating to both of us. Had a crush on one of my grad school teachers for a year and a half. I was into everything about her. Looks, brain, everything. I ended up teaching the same subject many years later and I still use the notes and materials from her classes with my own students. She was engaged to someone else so I never even thought about anything ever happening. It was a nice fantasy. Then out of the blue, she calls my cell phone and tells me that she's thinking of getting into yoga and knows that I am into yoga. So would I get a drink with her and tell her more? I was not exactly experienced with hookups and I actually took her at her word. I went expecting to talk about yoga and go home afterwards. We ended up getting totally wasted, making out in the middle of a bar, and then I walked her home where I kept saying I'm sorry and this definitely isn't happening. And I'll just get you to your door and go home. It did happen, but the joke was on her. She got a few seconds of the worst sex of her life and then got to listen to me in the bathroom for a while. The next day she found me in the hallway and told me that it was a huge mistake and asked me not to tell anyone. Nobody would believe me anyway so I agreed. I can honestly say I wish the entire thing had never happened. She got married and moved on with her life. I ended up having to take her husband's class before I could graduate. She got a few seconds of the worst sex of her life and then got to listen to me in the bathroom for a while. Frick, that stings. Damn, even when you were hammer drunk? I can't jizz when I'm drunk, lol. I slept with one of my professors in college. At the time I was 19 or 20 and she was in her mid-30s. I went to see her during her office hours. We talked for a few minutes and when I went to leave she gave me a long hug and told me, "You give really nice hugs," as she held onto my arms. I asked for her number and went on my way. We exchanged a few flirty text messages over the next few days before she invited me over to her apartment to help her hook up a new TV she had bought. We ended up sleeping together about 10 times before she moved away to take a new job at a different school. You give nice hugs. Hey, can I have your number? Nice. My religious studies college professor. She was hilarious and brilliant and always brought her interests up in class and they usually aligned with mine. It started off with what felt like on-topic to class discussions, then into more friendly casual conversations about books and movies. Then it definitely transitioned into flirting, which was weird, because I'm also female and had never had feelings for another girl, so I thought it could just be some weird fantasy in my head and I was just making something out of nothing. Anyways, fast forward, semester ends, I'm out of her class. I submit my final at noon. By 1 PM, she emails me my final grade and says, "I'm all done submitting your grades, so you're officially no longer my student. Congrats on passing the class and good luck." So I sent back an email with a song attached and then the emailing went on from there before we officially hung out, which led to sex, which led to a 3-year relationship. We moved in together for about a year, but it ultimately didn't work out cause we wanted different things long term. But we ended on good terms and I'm grateful for the relationship now 5 years out, as it helped me realize what I want in a partner. I now have an amazing boyfriend and I heard she recently got married to a woman she started dating after me. You know, it's nice to read one of these that have a good ending. Thank you for sharing. My 8th grade teacher. This was during the 80s before all the scandals, when no one really cared if a female teacher was spending a lot of time alone with one of her students. I was 14. She was mid-40s and a family friend who had known me since I was a little kid. She asked me to volunteer for a school activity that had us spending time together after class and occasionally off campus. My mum knew her so wasn't bothered I was spending so much time with her. She had always teased and playfully touched me as a kid. When we were alone after class, she started touching me more and flirting and talking about intimate things like her divorce and asking me if I had a girlfriend yet. She escalated the intimacy through the year, pushing boundaries a little more each time. We started having sex that summer. It went on for about 3 months. She ended it once I went to high school. My family moved out of state after my freshman year. I had a long talk with her before leaving and we parted on good terms. I never spoke to her again, but heard she eventually remarried and became vice principal at another school. She died a few years ago. I'm almost 50 and still think about her quite often. What was the school activity you volunteered in? Not sure if this counts, but my particular field has a mandatory internship period after graduating college and passing national board exams. During your internship you have a preceptor in charge of guiding you and teaching you the things the books didn't, like physical techniques and state-specific laws. School taught the national curriculum, not the state-unique laws. The preceptor is often a supervisor or manager at the facility that gave you an internship, but could be anyone with a license in the field. Internships are extremely competitive and extremely hard to come by in my area, so I started out doing grunt work at a facility to eventually earn an internship. My preceptor was the supervisor of the firm and more than a decade my senior. During the internship you understandably spend a lot of time together, because the intern is not allowed to perform any job duties without supervision. So we had the same schedule, worked on the same projects, and ate lunch together every day. After about 4 months of this, we both come back from holiday break, and as we're catching up we both say we have big news. His news turned out to be that he filed for divorce with his wife. He'd been wanting to for a long time, but talking with me about infidelity finally gave him the push. His ex-wife had cheated on him twice and he had proof. My news was that I broke up with my long-term boyfriend. I spent the holiday with my sister who saw I was miserable because my boyfriend wasn't respecting me, and ultimately she gave me the sister talk of what are you actually getting out of this relationship. We both kind of looked at each other and blushed and went back to eating lunch in a bit of awkward silence. It took another 4 months of awkward brushing up against each other while trying to work. Physical job. Awkward radio songs coming on while working. Don't Stand So Close to Me by Sting and the Police. Caught Up in You by .38 Special. Young Girl by Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, just to name a few. That all came on spontaneously on the radio while we were working together on more than one occasion. And veiled flirting before we finally went on a date together. He continued being my preceptor for the remaining 4 months of my internship, and we dated in secret since he was my immediate superior and responsible for whether I got my license in the field. Then when I got my license we both went public with the relationship, and shortly after moved to a different firm where he was immediately promoted to management and I was promoted to management within a year. 5 years later we're both still doing well with the new firm, married, own a house together, and our first baby is due in a month. Smiley face, so mine has a happy ending. Funeral business? Yes, funeral industry. And here I thought I was being vague. LOL.